Bartholomew Kuma is one of the founding members of the Revolutionary Army. He used to be the king of the Sorbet Kingdom, but he was overthrown by his people. According to Bonnie, Kuma was not a tyrant. He earned a bad reputation for standing up to the world government. The organization admonished him and very likely caused him to be replaced by someone else. After losing his status as king, Kuma met Dragon and Ivankov, and together the three of them founded the Revolutionary Army, which is one of the strongest organizations in One Piece. The trio was deeply affected by the tragedy that took place in O'Hara, and they vowed to never let that happen again. Kuma remained a part of the Revolutionary Army until he was captured by the Marines. Considering the number of transgressions that Kuma committed, he would have definitely been imprisoned and impelled down, or maybe even executed. However, he was saved in a way by Vegapunk. If the scientist hadn't turned Kuma into a cyborg, the world government would have never let him roam freely. But this freedom came at a great cost. Slowly, Kuma began to lose his mind, and ultimately he ended up as a mindless cyborg. Before he lost his senses completely, Kuma was integral to many One Piece arcs. In his limited appearances, he showed how powerful he was. Kuma was responsible for saving the Straw Hats from Kizaru and the Pacifista. He also protected the Thousand Sunny while the crew was away training. Kuma's involvement was cut short when he was turned into a slave by the Celestial Dragons. The top brass of the Revolutionary Army could not afford to stand by and see one of their best members being used as a means of transport by the Celestial Dragons. The invasion. The Revolutionary Army decided to infiltrate Mary Ajoy to rescue Kuma from his plight. The team to save Kuma consisted of Sabo, Morley, Karasu, and Lindbergh. The revolutionaries had three objectives: to destroy the symbol of the Celestial Dragons, to free Kuma and other slaves, and finally to destroy the food storage in Mary Ajoy. They successfully destroyed the hoof of the Celestial Dragons and their food supplies without much effort. However, they did have to struggle for a while to get a hold of the keys to the collars of the slaves and Bartholomew Kuma, as without the keys, it would not be possible to save him. The three commanders had to fight many security guards, but their real test came against the two admirals. Considering the damage that the Revolutionary Army caused, the Marines sent their best fighters to handle the situation. Many fans expected the admirals to triumph, but they couldn't have been more wrong. Morley was holding off Ryukugi without any problems, while Karasa kept Fujitora busy. Even though the admirals had to hold back because of the Celestial Dragons, it was still an incredible accomplishment for the Revolutionary Army commanders, as not many characters can stand their ground in front of an admiral. While they kept the admirals occupied, Sabo managed to steal the keys from the guard room. He informed Karasu about the mission's success and told him to go back to headquarters once Kuma and the rest of the slaves were freed. Toward the end of the chapter, Morley turned up at Kuma's location and stopped him from attacking Leo and Sai. After successfully retrieving Kuma, the Revolutionary Army commanders took him back to their hideout, bringing back his sanity. Bartholomew Kuma was eventually taken to Kamabaka Kingdom, which is the new base of the Revolutionary Army. Although he was no longer bound by any physical chains, Kuma still remained a mindless cyborg. The Revolutionary Army tried to undo what Vegapunk had done to him, but it was never going to be an easy job. While they somewhat repaired him, Kuma still behaved oddly. Eventually, he ran away from the Kamabaka Kingdom and used his devil fruit powers to go to the Red Line. Upon his arrival, Kuma began to climb it. The people near the port where Kuma landed were in panic mode, and it won't be long before the Marines get involved and try to take the former Shichibukai into their custody, or they might simply decide to kill him because he no longer has a working mind. The reason behind Kuma's decision has still not been explained, but it may be related to the time that he spent working with Vegapunk. It would be highly unusual for Kuma to become a test subject for Vegapunk just to save himself from the Marines, so there is definitely more to it than meets the eye. There are still several things about Kuma that remain a mystery, including his special lineage, how he was captured, and why he volunteered to become a cyborg. Given his present condition, Kuma might not make it till the end of the series, but one thing is for certain: Oda will provide the readers with the answers to all the questions about the former king of the Sorbet Kingdom. And in other news, One Piece, the dark side of the world government. The world of One Piece is a complex and dynamic universe featuring various factions vying for power and control. Among them is the world government, a dominant entity that dominates vast territories through institutions like the Marines and CIPHER. While the government claims to maintain order and protect citizens, its dark side is deeply ingrained within its system, which includes a slew of morally dubious practices. While putting on a show of justice, power, and control, they engage in various oppressive and manipulative behaviors that cast a shadow over their operations. From corruption and discrimination to misinforming the public, the world government's dark side reflects a deeply rooted tyranny that disregards its subjects' well-being and rights. The order thrives on self-interest, often at the expense of the innocent and voiceless. The dark side of the world government encompasses several key aspects that portray its morally questionable practices and its negative impact in the One Piece series. Deep-rooted corruption. While the government claims to maintain order and protect citizens, its methods often involve authoritarianism and suppression of dissent. The tyrannical rule of the world government treads down to the corruption deeply ingrained within the system. The character of Don Quixote da Flamingo exemplifies the corrupt practices within the world government. He was a former warlord of the sea who exploited his position to engage in illicit activities, including weapons trading and puppeteering nations, for his benefit while enjoying the government's protection in a flimsy role as the warlord of the sea. The world government actively suppresses knowledge of the Void Century and manipulates historical records to maintain its hold on power. By controlling the narrative and fabricating history, they ensure that the truth remains hidden, perpetuating a false sense of legitimacy and authority. This corruption extends to cover-ups, as seen in the government's efforts to hide the truth about the Void Century and maintain a fabricated history to suit their interests. The O'Hara incident is a significant example of the world government's corrupt practices. The government ruthlessly destroyed the island of O'Hara and its scholars to suppress their research on the Void Century. They eliminated any evidence that could challenge their authority and perpetuated a fabricated history to serve their interests. Discrimination and prejudice. The world government promotes discrimination and prejudice against certain races and groups. Fishmen and merfolk, for example, face systemic discrimination, with their rights being denied and their communities oppressed. This discrimination reflects the deep-seated prejudice within the world government, perpetuating a hierarchy that values certain races over others. This exploitation is evident in the likes of the celestial dragons, who exert their authority to exploit and abuse those beneath them. The existence of the black market, where certain races are sold to the highest bidder, with the knowledge of the world government, and the involvement of the celestial dragons, deeply portrays the abuse of power and authority. The Straw Hat Pirates paid dearly for stopping this active slave trade in Saboti Archipelago, and even though they were on the right hand of justice, they were targeted as enemies by the Marines. The existence of shadow agents, CIPHER. The existence of CIPHER within the world government serves as a tenet of corruption, further highlighting the morally questionable practices and abuse of power within the governing body. CIPHER's actions and methods exemplify the extent to which the world government is willing to maintain control and protect its interests. The shadow agents operate with a high level of autonomy and minimal oversight, which creates a breeding ground for corruption. They are granted significant power and authority, allowing them to carry out secret missions and engage in morally dubious activities without facing the consequences of their actions. An instance where the shadow agents ruthlessly carry out their mission is during the capture of Nico Robin, and the attempt to assassinate Iceblood showcases their ruthlessness. They are ready to eliminate anyone who stands in their way, completely disregarding the common people. They vow to protect all under the guise of preserving order and protecting the government's secrets. The CIPHER activities also center on protecting the interests of the corrupt and power-hungry celestial dragons, protecting their interests, and furthering the inequality and corruption within the world government. They assist in the subjugation and oppression of the fishmen and merfolk, protecting the privileged position of the celestial dragons, and ensuring the continuation of an unjust system. It's worth noting that not all members of the world government are inherently evil or corrupt. Some individuals within the Marines, like Smoker, Fujitora, and Vice Admiral Garp strive for justice and question the government's actions. Ultimately, the dark side of the world government in One Piece serves as a cautionary tale, reminding people of the dangers of unchecked power, discrimination, and corruption, and inspiring us to strive for a more just and compassionate society. That's a wrap for this video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with more amazing videos very soon.